morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever time of day you are watching. Thank you for joining me. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to part 2. The goal for today is, as you can tell, I'm getting the vehicle all soapy and clean. I gotta scrub it down. I gotta clay the entire car to make it nice and silky smooth, so I gotta do that. I gotta clay the entire thing, then dry it off. Then I gotta bring it to this garage. As you guys can tell, I am not at my house this time. Surprising, right? Yeah, get this thing all squeaky clean, start disassembling it, and hopefully you guys figured out by now that I'll be wrapping this thing, the entire vehicle. It should be fun, should not be fun. I don't know what's gonna happen, but yeah, let's keep doing this. Alright, so it's pretty much washed. I just have to clay it now, so I'm gonna foam it one more time. You want to clay it before putting down a wrap. You want to get all the contaminants off the paint. Basically everything that's embedded, you want to make it nice and silky smooth. If you guys are, I don't know, wrappers that do this professionally, then I guess you can agree with me, or maybe my methods are completely wrong, and feel free to tell me otherwise. You just put it on a dirty car, it's just gonna look terrible, and you're gonna have to peel it all off and do it again. This is gonna be a long process. Oh well, let's do it. Alright, I got the vehicle dry, well, as much as I can, but first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off this front bumper, and the front bumper is held on by, I think it's 7 quarter-turn screws, 4 plastic rivets in each fender, well, 4 in total, but 2 on the driver, 2 on the passenger, and then there's 2 10s, and I believe that's it. And then on the top, holding on the grill, there's some plastic body clips that need to be removed. We're going to take off all those, and then hopefully this front clip just pops right off. Yeah. So these are the 2 plastic rivets and 10mm bolt that needs to be removed. Go ahead and remove the bolt. Here's what it looks like. To remove the plastic rivets, you can either cut them off like I am or just drill them out. They're one-time use anyways. Now just pull the fender flare away from the bumper. It's only held in by pressure clips anyways. Here's a better view of the flare and a close-up of those clips. Don't worry about this clip I release. It's attached to the fender and doesn't serve any purpose. Remember those 5 quarter-turn screws that I mentioned? Well, they're along the bottom of the bumper. There's 1 in each wheel well and 3 in the middle. Just give them a turn and pull them out. And lastly, under the hood you'll have 2 push pins. 1 here and 1 here. To remove these push pins, there's a little notch you can insert a flathead screwdriver or use a pry tool. But they are super easy to pull out. If they break, luckily for you, I have part numbers and links for almost everything you might break. Now, to release the front bumper, you'll need to pull the sides away from the body. It takes some effort, as you can hear. The front bumper clips into brackets that are right next to the fenders, or underneath. With both sides released, you can now shimmy the bumper off. And as a reminder, make sure to unplug your fog lights before removing the bumper. I almost ripped mine off doing this because I forgot. So I'm going to be removing this upper grille, the fog light bezels, and the lower fascia. That way, when I go to wrap this, I can easily tuck the wrap underneath all this to make it look as clean and as professional as possible. Let's take everything off this bumper. The upper grille is held on by these tabs right here. There's this clip here, and then a bunch of Torx head bits right there, there, another one there, and then another white clip. So both those white clips have to be removed. Then all the Torx screws have to be removed, and I'm assuming, if I'm correct, this upper grille will pop out. So let's do that. There's a total of 8 Torx screws you'll need to remove and 2 molding clips. Once all of those are removed, the upper grille should just slide off. To remove the fog light bezels, there are 2 Phillips head screws on both sides. Then, the bezel trim is held in by tabs on the bumper. Here's a better look at the ring. Mine is pretty wrecked, both screw tabs are broken, and the bottom notch is busted. Those are the only things holding it on to the bumper. Here's the bumper completely disassembled, at least majority of everything that I need. Fog light bezels are off, the lower fascia is taken off, the upper grille is off, and this is what the front end looks like. Almost completely disassembled besides the lights. I'm not going to be pulling the lights off completely, I'm just going to undo the bolts and pull them back when I go to wrap the fenders, that way I can tuck it in. That's what it looks like now. Now I'm going to flip it around and start disassembling the trunk. Got it flipped around. Now we're going to deal with all this back here. Spoiler's got to come off. This, I forgot what it's called, but this plate comes off. Tail lights, everything has to come off. Rear bumper has to come off, and then this little bumper tab cover, all that has to come off. And I think I'm going to do the handle, but I'm not entirely sure yet. I don't know if I want to go through all that effort, but let's keep going, I guess. So, you've seen me remove the outer tails before. If you wondered how to disconnect the pigtails, you'll need to pull these red locking tabs to be able to disconnect them from the tail light housing. To access the inner tail lights, first you'll need to remove the lower liftgate panel. When you start pulling, you should hear all of these pops and bangs. With the panel removed, now you need to disconnect these 2 plugs along with these 4 10mm nuts. When you go to pull on this, you might have to put some effort into it. The foam gasket around the light is pretty strong, but yours might not be. You'll find out which one it is. Now, unplug this white connector. That is for your rear camera and your license plate lights. Then you'll have 8 10mm nuts to remove, plus or minus a clip or 2. Speaking of clips, you'll have one of these on each side. If you're lucky, you'll have this off in 5 minutes or more. That white connector has a waterproof grommet that gets removed from here. Alright, so now that everything on the inside of the hatch is disassembled and on the outside is disassembled, now I gotta remove that spoiler because that's gonna get wrapped too. So the upper liftgate panel is a little tougher to pull off, but I know you're all really strong. Just make sure to pull the center of the panel towards you and the sides towards the center. That's the trick. Here you can see all the metal clips on the inside of the panel. I had the misfortune of breaking one of my clips off. It's cool though, shit happens. So to get the spoiler off, you have a couple bolts. You have one there. You have one in there, if you guys can see it. Yep. There's a white clip right there that you guys gotta need to squeeze. Apparently I have a nut missing on that one. Let me know if yours is missing too. Another white clip right in there. Another bolt right there, if it can focus. Nope, doesn't want to focus. And then another bolt there, and then spoiler should, in theory, come off. So, yep. Once you have all those 5 nuts removed, grab some needle nose pliers and disconnect the washer fluid hose. Now, with those same pliers, you'll want to squeeze the 2 white clips holding the spoiler. Oh, and don't forget to unplug this connector. Now, you can finally remove the spoiler from your car. Or Jeep. Or whatever it's called. Spoiler's off. Now let's remove the rear bumper. It's pretty much the same process as the front. 10mm up top, 8mm screw at the bottom, and the same 2 plastic rivets that need to be cut off. So for whatever reason, the rear fenders are a little harder to pull out from the bumper. You can see me struggling to pop them out. I eventually resorted to using one of my pry tools to release all the fender clips. You'll notice this screw on both sides. Take them out. Then, 2 T30 Torx bolts on both sides. Under the lower fascia, there's 2 10mm bolts, or they might be push pins. Just depends on what Jeep had in stock at the time. To pull off the rear bumper, start at the tips and pull towards the front and out. Once the sides are released, you can shake the rear bumper off pretty much. Yes, there's a stain on my ass. No, I didn't shit myself. And I don't know what I sat in. Anyways, you'll need to bend the lower fascia mounting tabs past the hitch or the body mounts to get it completely off. With the bumper finally off, if you have backup sensors or parking sensors, which I think most of them do, you'll need to disconnect this harness from the body. Bumper's been removed. I haven't completely disassembled it yet, but yeah, move on to the next pieces, which the next pieces would be the door handles. And if you guys know anything about Grand Cherokees, door handles, the whole inside of the door has to come apart to be able to reach them and pop them out, because that's the way it's designed. Makes sense to everybody else, right? So first thing, inside the door handle, as you can see, well, that's the handle, this is the grab. You guys can see that's a 7mm right there. And then behind this cover right here. So that needs to be popped off, and there's gonna be a 10mm and then a Phillips head that needs to come off. But I'll show you guys once I get that off. To get this cover off, you can use a flathead right in this notch right here and just pry on it until it pops. There's the 10mm and there's the Phillips that both need to come out. And then that also has to be popped off. Alright, let's get this door panel off. You'll need some kind of pry tool, or this whole kit. Reason being is that the panel is held in by a bunch of these retainers all around the edges, and requires some effort to pop out. If you manage to pop all the retainers, there's one connector inside the panel closest to the tweeter that needs to be disconnected, then just pull out the handle. You have to finagle the handle out because it's attached to the rest of the assembly, as you guys can see, and then you have a little connector on here on the inside of the door as well. So get the handle out, unplug the connector, and then we're moving on. So now pull up on this inner window seal. I'm using a pry tool to make it easier, but you can use anything around you. Like, seriously, anything would work. Then the front speaker needs to come out. It's held in by 4 T20 Torx screws, I think. Yeah, it should be. So this would be a perfect time to upgrade your speakers if you're planning on doing that, or you're already watching this because you're upgrading your speakers. You'll need to reconnect the window switch to lower the window to this exact point. This yellowish tab you see locks the window to the tracks and needs to be pushed in as you pull up on both sides. Once you have the window free, the trick to getting it out is turning it vertical, then pulling it straight up and out. With the window out, now let's tackle these 10mm bolts. Then, remove these 3 T27 Torx bolts for the latch. And with the same T27 Torx, turn these 3 retainers. Remove this cover to access the screws for the handle. There's 3 screws total, 2 in here, and 1 right here. You also have to disconnect this plug. Before you do those, I'd highly advise you to remove this plastic rod clip first, and pull the locking rod out of the latch. So, to get this last screw out, you have to go behind the door card and into the door. There might be a better way, but I didn't manage to find it. If you manage to get everything off, to get the handle out, you'll want to hold the back against the body, and at the same time pull the handle to extend the latch, and keep it like that until you can get the latch out of the door. Then you'll need to pull the handle towards the front of the Jeep to get the connector out, and here's what the handle looks like out of the door. Front door's done. That sucked. Yeah. I don't know what's worse. Changing out headlights or taking off a door handle off a Grand Cherokee. Well, beside the point. That door's done. I have the passenger, not the passenger, I already did the passenger side. I have the, what's it called? Yeah, I have this side. I have the rear door to do. Man, it's been a long day. But I have the rear door to do, so this side should be easier because you don't have to take off the glass, but it's still not a fun thing to do. So, yeah, rear door. Let's go. Alright, well, everything that needs to be done is done. At least for the most part. Bumpers are off. Door handles are off. Anything that needs to be taken off is already off. But, yeah, it's going to be fun and exciting. Tomorrow for me, I don't know when this video is going to get posted. Hopefully sometime soon, in consecutive with the rest of them. Tomorrow's going to be a fun day, but I'm sure you guys are wondering what color I decided to go with, so let's take a second to look at the color that I chose for this project. So, here's the brand I went with, and here is the color.